Morning, Bitcoiner, in just a second. We got kids headed to, a little bit of a week day camp here for homeschoolers. So a bit of excitement around the house this morning, right? Bit of excitement around the house. Bushmaster, good morning. Good morning. Guten Morgen, Bitcoiners, indeed. Where do I set? Bomatantus, good morning, Bitcoiners. Anyone know what's up with Javier in Argentina? I just saw he was leading. I don't know what that means. Don't know what credibility the Argentinian election system has. Don't know what leading in a poll means in Argentina. No idea, but sounds good. Hope he wins. Hope he wins. We love Argentinian Bitcoiners, of course. Good Monday team. Indeed, good Monday team. I thought it said good morning team for a second. It must be in the Matrix. My ATM said Aloha Saturday to me. Good morning. Yeah, aloha. Aloha, enemy of the people. I think everyone can guess what we're going to be talking about today. Good morning, Bitcoiners, wherever you are. Robert, P-Man Van, good morning all. Bud, good morning. Good morning, Bud. CK, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, fam. I think CK is pumping iron right now. We love it. Good morning, everyone from Homemade. Excellent. Let me just confirm. I got a maximum sunrise, right? It's totally above the horizon. We have complete saturation of the sky with solar light. We're doing great, right? Bitcoin running, no problem. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. As you know, we like to get started every morning with some fake news, right? Just to get us going here, just to get us going, right? What's happening? Well, this is a user-supported Moscow time, so I love when people who join the Breakup gang share Moscow time stories with me. It's the best. Los Angeles Times telling us all that remote work gave them a reprieve from racism. They don't want to go back. Is it just the people who had a reprieve from racism that don't want to go back? I don't know. Walker asked, did the Babylon Bee, Walker America, who we all know, asked, did the Babylon Bee acquire Bloomberg? For this headline, Bloomberg opinion, to fix retirement crisis, give every baby $10,000. If the U.S. government gave every baby $10,000 to invest in the stock market, everyone would have enough for retirement. Come on, it's so easy. It's so simple, you idiots. It's simple. Just give everyone $10,000. There was an excellent movie you should watch called Whoops Apocalypse. I don't know if it's still excellent. I used to love it when I was a kid. And it's obviously a satire and blah, blah, blah. It's where there's like it's a little bit like UHF. And if you didn't see UHF, that's the one with Weird Al Yankovic where it's like everything's opposite, right? Well, in this one, it's kind of the same idea. And the Prime Minister of Great Britain has a plan to end unemployment by everyone who has a job jumping off a cliff. There's job openings. It's great. This is along the same lines. Speaking of jumping off cliffs and what are we going to do, right? Here's The Economist with, talking about what we're going to burn if we don't do this, guys, right? It's all over. Economist with some big time advice. This is the new mindset, right? This is how you have to reframe beef. Okay. This is going to save the world, guys. It's going to save the world. Treating beef like coal, okay? Beef and coal would make a big dent in greenhouse gas emissions, all right? So everyone, if you're just out there and you're thinking about beef, stop. Think about coal from now on, okay? It's the same thing. This is what they say. Beef emits 31 times more carbon dioxide per calorie than tofu, guys. By cooking so many cows, humans are cooking themselves too. You didn't know that. You didn't know you were cooking yourself when you made a steak. Idiots. Foregoing steaks may be one of the most efficient ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Boom, we're done. Global warming solved. Just eat tofu and think of steak like coal. Jevi, I want you to just figure out in your thing when you're sharing ideas on food and all that, just talk about how to prepare coal, okay? Because we can eat that too. Beef on coal sounds good. That's very illegal where you're from, P-Man Van. It's one of my main problems. By the way, if you don't know this, Montreal, known for bagels. All right, bagels. And I can actually right now put an end, as someone who's lived in both New York City and Montreal. There's a big debate, by the way, about which bagels are the best, right? Montreal bagels or New York City bagels. Here's the actual answer, official answer from me. The greatest bagels in the world ever are the Montreal bagels the moment you get them fresh off the oven, but they're only good for like an hour. After that, they're in third place. Because the second best bagel, and it's actually better in some ways because you can actually eat a New York bagel without toasting it for like 2 days. They're as good as, almost as good as a fresh Montreal bagel untoasted. Montrealers don't know that. New Yorkers don't toast their bagels. That's a Montreal thing because ours are shitty after about an hour or two. But the best, not shitty, they're good, but day 2 of a bagel stop in Montreal. They're no good anymore. I'm willing to say that, right? I only get them fresh. Where was I going with the bagel thing? Oh yeah, but it doesn't even matter because stupid Montreal, you know what they did? Because we're going to solve global warming right here in Montreal. So Montreal's bagels, different than the New York bagels, which are all, boiled in water and then sent somewhere. And I don't know what goes on, how they're made. They're never made on site, okay? Because the Montreal bagels, the best places make them on site with a wood-fired oven. But, there's like 10 of them going in Montreal, and every one of those ones had like an open fire. Oh, guess what's coming out of the open fire? Greenhouse gas emissions. Game over. They banned them. So the greatest thing to come out of Montreal, we're going to do our part, right? Doesn't matter what's happening in China or India. Quebecers are going to do their part, and they're going to ban the fire from bagel making. Now, the problem with that, for me anyway, is bringing up exactly what you're mentioning here with beef on coal. Sounds good, because when I lived in South Korea, of course I love Korean barbecue, Japanese barbecue, the yakiniku stuff, right? I just love it. But the good ones over there are made with real coal. Like they bring with like these clamps, right? They bring a whole chunk of coal into your table, and they put the coal right inside your table, and it's way better than the gas, way better than the toasters. Blah, 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 right? Just so good. But of course, you can't have that in America. This is too illegal, right? Or America doesn't allow the charcoal either. I mean, in New York, they didn't. Although I did find a place that had charcoal in New York. I did way out in wherever it's called, Flushing, way out in Flushing. So, but of course, we can't have charcoal in Quebec. God, that would add to the bagel emissions. And if the bagel emissions are that high, we got to shut it down. All right, let's keep going here. Because I think there's so many bagels being made in Montreal and so much charcoal steak. We're understanding here, according to the BBC News, that it's actually making sign language change. All right. How is sign language adapting to climate change? They ask in the BBC. How, right? Do they have something now for like bagels that are made in a shitty way? I don't know. We don't know. There must be a new sign for shitty bagels not made with real fire. All right. This is from the National Something Health, blah, 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 blah. In case you didn't know this, COVID-19 vaccination and boosting during pregnancy benefits the pregnant people, right? Pregnant people, right? Because we know they're people, and newborns. All right. Okay. You got that? So if you're pregnant, according to the National Something Health, blah, 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 you got to get vaccinated because it's good for the baby. It's good. We all know it. It's good for the baby. This one's really good. This is from our favorite CNBC. Right? Retailers say organized theft is biting into profits, but internal issues may be really to blame. Right. So it's not the stealing's only like kind of a problem, right? It's only kind of a problem. And we have a new subgenre that we are going to follow whenever we can. All right. We got subgenres of fake news, right? There's a few subgenres. Remember, we had the Sound of Freedom subgenre. Sound of Freedom was the movie about child trafficking that is one of the biggest box office hits of the summer. But if you didn't know, it's super racist or something like that. But now we got a new one. This is going to be a subcategory that we're going to follow whenever we see it. And it's Rolling Stone, right? One of our favorite Moscow Time contributors, Rolling Stone. And they're into music, of course, right? It's Rolling Stone magazine. So there they go, right? They're usually into music. And now there was a hit song out there, Rich Men North of Richmond, Right? You'd think they'd be in, what's this new song? No. Rolling Stone. Rich men north of Richmond is a passionate screed against the state of the country, and right-wing influencers are very into it. They're very into it, guys. Are you guys all right-wing influencers? You're really into it. You're right-wing influencers. You're so into it. I bet, idiots. So there you go. We got a little bit of fake news. Now there's this other guy who comes out, right? So we're moving on from our Moscow time to talk about Nathan Kofnas before we get into our theme of the day, which is Aloha, enemy of the people. So here we go. Nathan Kofnas says, the main point, and he's talking about rich men of Richmond here, the main point of conservatives' new favorite song is that rich men have devalued and taxed the dollar. That's their main point. Come on. But in America, most taxes are paid by the rich, and even our poor are rich by global standards. Note that an off-the-grid Virginia farmer can spend more than the annual household income in most countries on recording equipment for his music hobby. 40 years ago, an American hillbilly would have been lucky to own his own harmonica. 40 years ago, yeah. So in 1980, an American hillbilly would have been lucky to own a harmonica. Nathan, you're great. We love you. I wonder how much Bitcoin Nathan has. 40 years ago, an American hillbilly would have been lucky to own his own harmonica and cost less than a 1-week supply of this guy's beard wax. Populists on both the left and the right can't articulate what irks them. They can't articulate it, guys. So they invent economic grievances and blame these rich men north of Richmond for forcing them to sit out here and waste my life away, right? So what did people have to say about Nathan and his thoughts on Richmond, north of Richmond? Well, Cernovich says the vast majority of the rich don't add value, but instead have created a Ponzi scheme. For example, the $111 billion in money isn't going to Ukraine. It's going to the rich men north of Richmond. If you're educated, and he asks Nathan, why don't you understand art if you're so educated, right? What's your problem? And also your neck is 13 inches. Turdemeester had a really good one, and he says, this person says ain't got a dollar shouldn't complain. What he misses is the fiat system's innate credit expansion, allowing massive wealth gains via leverage at the cost of an inflationary spiral. Inevitably, the average worker / saver ends up holding the short end of the stick. And now, isn't this Nathan guy just perfect? Isn't he a perfect libtard? Isn't it perfect to have a guy like this come out and say, I'm educated, right? And then you get Cernovich. You think Nathan's smarter than Turdemeester? You think Nathan is sitting back getting asked to be on podcasts to talk about what psilocybin can do to society? You think Nathan is getting invited around the world? I was just talking with Tur this weekend about coming to Amsterdam and all these kinds of things, right? You think Nathan's getting invited to Amsterdam? You think that's happening, right? I have my doubts about Nathan's overall intelligence level here, right? And by the way, this attack on Ain't Got a Dollar and what's going on with the Northmen, Northridge. So I guess he's got like 3 songs now in the top 10 on iTunes. The whole thing's exploding. And Nick Carter makes a prediction here, which is why we've already put it into Moscow time, right? This new subgenre of attacks against rich men north of Richmond. Nick Carter says 48 hours till the Richmond guy is forced to apologize for old tweets / Discord posts. The New York Times doxers are digging up dirt as we speak. And then he says the only people that can handle getting big online smoothly are sociopaths that planned for it since age 8, or utterly milquetoast inoffensive types. Everyone else gets chewed up. Looks like it's going to be an anti-Semitism angle. I would expect a New York Times piece to drop tomorrow. Let's see. I think he's right? I think everything that Nick Carter has predicted here will absolutely come true, and we're going to see more, and we're going to bring you all the Moscow time around Richmond, north of Richmond, and all of these people. All right, so but it does bring up an interesting point of view, right? That culture, which is what we talked about the other day, culture really starting to change, and new cultural endeavors coming up like Sound of Freedom, like Richmond, north of Richmond. And Cernovich says, Sound of Freedom, top film. Richmond, north of Richmond, top song. curated on X. Further proof that there wasn't a lack of art. It was the fucking unrelenting battle of censorship and suppression. Americans are good, wholesome people who run up against brick walls. And that's what I'm seeing here, right? I'm seeing that indeed, just like Kennedy has mentioned before, the way forward, his path forward, what his polling has told him from before he launched his campaign, Robert Kennedy Jr., was that as long as he told the truth, he could win, right? That there was such an appetite for someone just saying something that sounds close to the truth or at least wasn't spun, right? Could be wrong, which is why I always say I don't think Kennedy's right about 90% of what he talks about. I don't. I absolutely do not believe Kennedy is right about the things he's worried about. He's not arguing about vax kills everybody. He's not saying that, right? He's not saying that even the vaccine that we had is necessarily the worst option. He's saying we have no ability to tell, right? And he's asking the right questions. We don't know the answer to these questions. He's coming out and saying it. And the way he says it really just means that he understands that we don't have the apparatus in place to even tell what's going on with the vaccines. We don't know, right? He's not saying he knows. He's saying we don't know. Now, other people are saying, oh, you're against vaccines and you're this and that. You're a conspiracy theorist, they've called him, right? Well, he actually had a hilarious speech about that this weekend. And they were asking him again, because one of their favorite attack points now on Bobby Kennedy is, are you gonna go on the same ticket as Trump, right? Are you and Trump gonna run together? That's what everyone's saying. We should be afraid. You're too cozy with Trump, right? You're not really a Democrat. And he did it straight, which is what made it awesome, right? So he comes in, he goes, well, the problem is the mainstream news is they spread conspiracy theories, right? They're just out there spreading conspiracy theories. And indeed, that's, I think, what we're about to open our eyes to. First of all, the shift here is that they criticized him, Kennedy, for being a conspiracy theorist, right? And we've said for a long time, this was a mistake. Because of all the people in the world that have the right to be a conspiracy theorist, if you want to even call it that, the only person who in the end absolutely has a right to ask questions is Bobby Kennedy Jr. His dad is dead. His uncle is dead. And he has a couple questions about it all, right? You can't call him a conspiracy theorist for having questions about his dead dad, dead uncle, that everyone else in the world thinks is a normal question to ask as well, right? These aren't conspiracy theorists. So watching him turn the tables and call the mainstream media that they spread conspiracy theories is hilarious, right? And that's why we always talk about how really you have to be you kind of have to have empathy and feel bad for the people who are getting programmed consistently by the mainstream media and who believe all of these conspiracy theories, right? Because you can go down the list, right? Like you can talk to people, and I know it's happened to many of you. It's happened, you mentioned in the comments sometimes you were out with family this weekend and your family said, oh, are you an alt-right now, or you believe in conspiracy theories? Remember, these people believe that the Russia collusion thing was real, right? They believe that Trump called people Nazis fine people, right? They believe that. They believe that that Trump said to drink bleach, right? They believe that. They believe that the sitting U.S. president, first of all, that we live in a world where the U.S. president said, yeah, Nazis are fine people, right? They believe that, right? And then they believe that he said, just drink some bleach. Drink a bit of bleach if you're sick with COVID, right? Just go ahead and drink bleach. It's going to be fine. They're actually saying that, right? The Russian laptop was disinformation. The elections were fair because the courts who have no ability to judge firmware, software, hardware, understand that the election system was fair. They get it, right? Don't worry. The courts, it's the courts. They said it, right? This one's awesome too. When he was in The Beast in the limousine, remember the fake story where Trump tried to jump over and change the direction that the driver of the limousine was driving in. They said that openly, right? The Mar-a-Lago, right? The documents hoax, that there's secrets in the documents that you can't see them, right? You can't see them. That's none of your business, right? That Twittergate, right? Remember Twittergate? All the stuff that we learned about Fauci hiding the story of COVID, the government going in and telling people what they can and can't say, especially with elections afterwards, right? That all of that it's a nothing. Twittergate was a nothing burger. It's okay. It's not. Look what happens with all the other social media. They're getting told what to do by the government. It's no problem, right? Come on, Twitter. What's Twitter complaining about? It's just the government telling them what to do. So the idea here that that we're living in this moment in time when you have a group of people who actually believe in conspiracy theories, which are propagated by the mainstream media. And they're calling everyone who disagrees with them conspiracy theorists, right? It's the projection thing all over again. We've talked a lot about projection here, right? And anytime you hear these kinds of accusations, you're stealing an election, you can always sort of turn it back and find out that the person accusing you of the thing is often doing the same thing, right? And we've been talking about that for a while. So again, I thought it was a huge mistake when Robert Kennedy was tagged a conspiracy theorist, because of all the people that had the ability to spin this on its head, Kennedy was the most apt to do it. We didn't know all of his skills. We never knew that he was such a powerful debater, so clever in the way that he's able to turn the tables. But in this speech, so he was at Iowa yesterday or over the weekend, right? The Iowa State Fair, and this is where he did that, and had the crowd in laughter, because really in the end that's what we got to do, right? You don't come in and you argue with all of them. He didn't make this case, well, they're the conspiracy theorists. He just said it as a matter of fact. Well, the mainstream media, they really do spread conspiracy theories around, right? Now, the problem that we have, I think anyway, after that is that indeed it's happening, right? But that you can't really get any confidence because it's sort of conspiracy theories coming out of the mainstream media, calling the other people conspiracy theorists as well. So everyone is sort of tarnished with the same brush right now, which means there's absolutely nowhere to go for information other than independent content creators who are doing their best to tell the truth. They might not be right? Now, I could be wrong about a lot of stuff that I talk about here. All I'm trying to do is tell you the truth about what I think, right? I could be wrong about a lot of it, just like Kennedy could be wrong about a lot of it. But his path forward is to tell the truth, and my path forward is to tell the truth. And I think most independent content creators, their path forward is to tell the truth. I can get wrong. I believe you guys would sort of not hold me to a standard where I have to be right about everything, right? As long as I'm being honest, I think we're good, right? I'm not pretending I'm right about everything. I'm not telling you I'm right. I don't know. I'm just giving you the questions that I have, the observations that I make, and I'm trying to do it without much of a filter. That's why we do it at 8 a.m. We can't really spin things too quickly here, right? We're getting the news as it comes off, and we're bringing it to you without really much spin at all, just on our honest to God impressions. And I think there's a huge market for that, right? Because people have been so abused by all of this stuff. Just look at the history of this is from David Sachs, right? He's got a whole big long thread here about all the trouble that they've had even coming to peace in America, and coming to peace in Ukraine and Russia. And you can tell right away that the media has not been interested in peace because they're never even asking these questions, right? They're never even asking these questions, right? So David Sachs had an interview on the podcast with a fellow named Alexander Mercouris. I don't really know how to pronounce his last name. He's the editor-in-chief at the Duran. I don't know much about the Duran. So he's got just a list here of the historical summary of what happened with the U.S. in the lead up to the war and what the U.S. has done on its own end in order to guarantee there was a war, right? So in 2004, the U.S. could have stayed out of Ukrainian efforts altogether, but instead chose to support a color revolution. In 2008, the U.S. could have listened to then Ambassador, now CIA Director Bill Burns' advice not to expand NATO to Ukraine because it would cross the brightest of all red lines for the entire Russian leadership. But instead, the U.S. issued the Bucharest Declaration that Ukraine would join NATO. In 2013, the U.S. and its European allies could have compromised on the EU accession agreement to address Russian concerns, but instead they maintained that they would not change even a punctuation mark. In 2014, the U.S. could have supported a peaceful transition of power in Ukraine, but instead it backed the maiden coup against a democratically elected government. In 2015 to 2022, the U.S. could have supported peaceful attempts via the Minsk agreements to resolve the protests by ethnic Russians, that broke out in reaction to the coup, but instead it supported Kiev's attempts to violently suppress and shell the Donbass. In 2021, 2022, the US could have negotiated over the Russian agreements, which principally sought a written guarantee that Ukraine would not join NATO, but instead it insisted that it would never compromise over that policy. In 2022, after the war broke out, the US could have supported the peace process in Belarus and Istanbul, but instead it sabotaged those agreements. And now, in the wake of a failing counteroffensive, the US could seek to enter into serious negotiations with the Russians, but instead it's demanding that the slaughter continue. At every fork in the road, the US foreign policy elite have chosen a path of confrontation and conflict as opposed to compromise and peace. And the media held their hand the whole way. Right? That's what I see here. None of this would be the case if we had a functional media. A little bit like what we were hearing about with art and culture, right? What Cernovich said. We don't have a problem with the art and culture piece, right? The problem is the lying and the censorship and not being able to actually find art that touches you and that you like and that you're interested in. Exactly what he was talking about when it comes to that, right? Now, Joel Pollack has that same point of view. He says the Biden crimes are real and the Trump crimes are illusory. The problem is the dysfunctional media who pretend the opposite. Fix that and democracy is fine, right? So that's what I'm seeing, right? It's a lot like what RFK is saying. It's a lot like what Joel Pollack is saying. It's a lot like what Cernovich is saying. And now we find ourselves with this Hawaii situation, right? Now we find ourselves in looking at Hawaii and what happened there. Now, I have no idea, no clue about what happened in Hawaii, right? I don't believe, I'll tell you right away, I don't believe there's any energy weapon or anything. And the reason I don't believe there's an energy weapon or anything is because a fire, right? If you do have fire, matches would have done. You didn't need, it was dry enough that you could have got it going. I think anyway, right? I don't think you need an energy weapon to get that kind of a fire going. But that's not really what I think anyway we're going to find out is the main scandal here. I think we're going to find out the main scandal is incompetence. And it looks like the incompetence was thorough and led to massive loss of life. Because we still don't know how many people are dead in Hawaii, by the way. And there's no reporting coming out of it. It's very difficult to find reliable information. And it looks a little bit like they're sort of setting people up for the numbers to increase. Now, I'm going to read you some names here. I have no idea about the credibility and their statements. I have no idea about their credibility and what's going on with this, right? But here's what we got. Derek Bros, willing witness, says the following. Let me make my position clear about Maui right now. Lahaina is being treated like a crime scene, and I believe there are thousands of victims. It is a crime scene. Who, what, why, how? They are not allowing even the residents to enter the area and even blocking aid. It is a very weird scene there right now. I expect this story to get even weirder. They have other plans for that island, and evil people do evil things. I know their tracks and snail trails. Again, I don't know anything, okay? Nothing. Here's another one. Now, again, I do not believe there's any weapon or anything like that. I think we're seeing a case of absolute incompetence. Right, absolute media incompetence being probably the worst part here, right? Because incompetent governments, right, and if they're so incompetent that what they did would, cause outrage, would cause outrage in the streets, and probably some kind of blood libel against these government officials. If you have a media that is refusing to even pick this up and is still falling into lockstep with the government around this point of view, then they have absolutely abdicated their role in society, right? And in the end, I think that this Hawaii story could grow even bigger. And here's inversionism, right? Here are some interesting facts about the fire in Maui that make you ask questions. The governor, emergency management administration, fire chief, lieutenant governor, and attorney general were not on the island when the fire broke out. That's not necessarily incriminating. So the two most critical emergency officials were AWOL. The emergency alert system also wasn't activated, and there are 400 sirens all over the state. Remember a couple of years ago when they had the fake missile thing in like 2018 or 2019, and it worked, and everyone in Hawaii was angry because the system worked? Well, it didn't work this time. The only system they activated was the cell phone alerts, but those comms were down too for some people. with many residents reporting they had zero warnings, some reporting that officials and police told them to stay and they'd be safe just a few hours before engulfing the area. Lastly, they didn't have enough firefighters and equipment. Apparently, there are only 60 plus firefighters across the 3 islands. And the administrator said they didn't address the fires until they were already at the populated areas and unstoppable. The alarm bells of conspiracy should be ringing in everyone's head right now. Now, again, it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter what really happened. It could just be incompetence. It could just be bad luck, whatever happened there, right? You get Megan Birth saying, talking about, this is the Hawaiian governor, Josh Green, says, very real. Global warming caused conditions for the deadly fire. Megan Barth says, bullshit. I was there, self-evacuated. There is far more behind this catastrophe, and the press, if there is such a thing anymore, should not accept this excuse for the government's abject failure and a lack of emergency preparedness. Now, the idiocy of the government, everyone expects that, right? It's like COVID, right? Like, did I expect anything from the government for them to get it right during COVID? Zero. I expected zero things for them to get right. Now, the media's job is a little easier because all they have to do is complain, right? That's it. It's like, you got it wrong. 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 It's probably the easiest job in the world, just to say someone else can do better, right? No, sorry, you got it wrong. And really, the media should do that all day. It should do that. Whoever's in power, right? If there's a right-wing government in power, it should say, oh, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. The other guys will get it right. And if a left-wing government's in power, they should just say, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. The other guys will get it right. Like, that's their job, right? Now, to what extent they got it wrong and to what extent the other side will get it right is their actual job. But they don't have to get it that close to the mark, right? What they can't do is suppress and work on the side of the government in order to keep people ignorant. So we can excuse away the incompetence of the government because not knowing what to do in the moment it's hard, right? Like even with COVID, I said no one's going to get it right. Even the politicians I like, right? Even the leaders I like won't get it right. Trump got it wrong, right? I didn't need to get angry at Trump all day because he got a bunch of shit wrong. I expected him to get it wrong, even though I think he gets a lot of shit right. I just didn't expect him to get anything about that right because it was the first time we'd ever seen anything like COVID. So how can anyone get it right? It's not possible, right? And the government here, now, if they're criminally negligible and if they are so stupid and incompetent, which I think is going to be the case, right? I think we're going to find out that it's not just that they were incompetent, they were negligent and acted in counter to what would have been good because they were so incompetent. So that is a very real possibility for how things turn out in Hawaii. But the part that is going to be inexcusable is the media's role. The media not reporting in the first days about what happened in any clear way and not bringing up any of the stuff, running with the fucking global warming stories. All right. Running with, oh, global warming did it. That ain't going to work. Right. That ain't going to work. And you're going to get more and more people now because we actually have zero confidence in any of our systems anymore. We have none. Right. If you take a look at all these TikToks coming out, people saying, right, this guy saying, I've been on Maui the last 9 years and I know the geographical location and how everything works. There is no effing way that a hurricane missed Big Island, went to Maui and didn't flood them, but it caused fires. Something strange has happened, right? So we don't know. We don't know. But this could be in the same way, if you remember the way Pearl Harbor had a huge effect on Americans engaging in World War II and all that. Is this a weird simulation wink where this strange thing out of Hawaii and a bunch of dead people wakes Americans up again to the real reality of World War III? Maybe. Because if they do, they're going to find out. And if you pay attention to this story, it could be one where not only do we realize that the government is incompetent, but we actually start focusing on who the real enemy of the people are. It's the media, right? It's always been the media. The media is the one that's out there convincing you, for example, that, just take a look at the crime situation, right? Just look at their role in this. Look at the Washington Post stories, and now you see all of these. It was one of our fake news stories of the day, right? One of our fake news stories of the day, which was All the retailers say organized theft is biting into profits, but not internal issue. But internal issues may really be to blame. Now, weirdly, I think CNBC is partially right. Retail is sort of dead, right? Like I don't imagine how much better it's going to do because you have Amazon and things like that. But the Washington Post, for example, why hasn't anyone asked the Washington Post what they think about what's going on in retail? What's going on with all these thieving and stuff like that? Why don't they ask Jeff Bezos, who owns them, right? Remember, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. What do they think about his competition, Amazon's competition, getting wiped out by crime? What do they think about it? Right? Did anyone ask Jeff Bezos during 2020 and the summer of love and George Floyd and all that stuff? Did anyone ask them then? Because the Washington Post was telling everyone this is like, don't worry about COVID. This is the most important protest. Even though retail is getting destroyed throughout New York City, and it was destroyed. People still don't know. I tell people all the time when I left New York City in the summer of 2020, they say, "Why? Was it COVID?" I said, "No, I didn't. COVID wasn't my problem in New York City. It was fucking George Floyd stuff, right? The burning of the city. Like, I didn't hear that, right? What? I had family who it was my wife's birthday, and they said, "Oh, we want to order you some sushi, right?" And I said, "Sushi? What are you talking about? Like, we're in Brooklyn. What are you absolutely talking about? What is going on?" They're like, "Yeah, like they were in another city, obviously, right? They're in Toronto. Let's order you some sushi." And I said that the sushi is gone. It's burnt down. There's no more sushi in downtown Brooklyn. It's all burnt. There's nothing. Like maybe if I go up to like Midtown, I can get some sushi. Probably not. Everything's closed, right? People just didn't know. They still don't know about how bad it was. So, that was it was super violent, right? It was super crazy, and the stores were gone. But why didn't anyone ever ask Jeff Bezos about what he thought, right? Why doesn't anyone ask anyone around Bezos and the Washington Post that frame, what they think about Amazon's competition being wiped out by crime and defund the police? Right now, I've always been a fan of defund the police, always, right? I'm totally down with it. But you got to have a media that can still talk about what's going on and ask these questions, and they can't, right? They can't. If you look at everything that's going on with Hunter Biden and the media with that story, it's always the same, right? Here's the actual quotes, right? Here's a whole bunch of fake news today about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and what's going on with that, right? A special counsel for Hunter Biden will add to Joe Biden's political woes. It's just a scandal of access. Indeed, while this is certainly a scandal of access, it gives off the whiff of improper influence peddling, right? But it's not clear. It's not clear if the president had anything involved. MSNBC running, that journalist we always talk about, who's maybe Steve Bannon, one of the stupidest journalists that have ever lived, and more and more, I think, is becoming a candidate for a space drop, right? Here's his whole story. Hunter Biden and the inherent challenge surrounding optics story. So this is an optics story, okay, according to him, right? So here's his frame. We're being told that Hunter Biden facing a special counsel is creating optics that are problematic for the White House. But as Steve Bannon asks, what does that mean exactly, right? So here's what he says it means, right? Hunter Biden is a private citizen with a famous name. He does not work at the White House. He never has. He is not now and has never been an elected official or candidate for public office. He holds no position of public trust. He's been accused of crimes, but despite Republican efforts to find evidence to the contrary, none of those crimes appear to relate to his father. None of them. They don't appear. They don't appear, guys. It's fine. With this in mind, the fact that Weiss was pursuing Hunter Biden yesterday and is now pursuing Hunter Biden with a slightly different title today doesn't change much. So why exactly are these developments creating optics that are problematic for the White House? To be sure, if there were evidence that the president or someone on his team intervened inappropriately in this case, that would certainly raise questions that would deserve a serious White House response. But given what we know now, that's not the story. Rather, what we have is an instance in which the sitting president's son is facing a special counsel prosecution, which is apparently a political problem for the White House. Well, because I'm not sure why, he says. That's his article. I'm not sure why. I'm just not sure why, right? I'm not sure. I don't know, right? I don't know. Who knows, right? The fact of the matter is that many presidents have had members of their immediate family who were a source of consternation for one reason or another, right? Here's the kicker, right? If evidence emerges of Joe Biden having done something wrong legally, ethically, or otherwise in support of his son, that would certainly be of interest. But in the meantime, why would the White House look bad because a private citizen who has nothing to do with the White House continues to face the same investigation he's been facing for years, right? Oh, well, I don't know. It's okay. It's just he doesn't know why. And what is, he didn't even answer his question. It's just optic stories, right? It's just like you got people around and it looks bad, right? That's what an optic story is, right? That's as much as he explained here, right? And now we have this other case of this fella coming in. And just look at how rock bottom stupid the media is, right? You get Dana Bash on CNN, right? Because now, so the thing about this Weiss guy and this case is that with the special counsel, apparently it shields Weiss and the special counsel from any more subpoenas from the House that's looking into this, right? So the House looking into it. Now, apparently they can't subpoena those things. That's what what's his name? Ben Shapiro said is the big problem, right? So he says just in time to prevent him from testifying before Congress about why he was originally alleged denied special counsel status. This appointment, by the way, also violates the special counsel regulations, which require that the special counsel be appointed from someone outside the government. So Dana Bash says, Dana Bash sees a silver lining in the Hunter Biden special counsel drop. It could keep the Republicans at bay, right? So they're just saying it straight out loud. The silent part out loud, everyone was saying. But now, of course, what's his name? Joe Biden is getting, there's articles of impeachment that have been brought forth in the House. And you know what they're called? It's pretty funny. They're pretty good title to it. It's the, let me find the title. It's the Helping Understand Narcotics Traces at the Executive Residence. Helping Understand Narcotics, Hun, Traces, Executive, E, Residents are Hunter. It's the Hunter Act. That's pretty good, huh? So they're going on about the bribes and everything, but really more importantly, they're even going to focus in on this cocaine question. Not that I ever think cocaine is an important question. It's just to catch people in lies, because of course the White House saying, we don't know, we'll never find out. We'll never know, right? That's a major story, right? To say we'll never know. Now, I don't, it doesn't matter if Hunter Biden is doing cocaine, I guess. His whatchamacallits, his plea deal, bargain, whatever, parole. No, his bail, his parole would be affected, right? So it's a thing, right? It's a thing. But now that we do know that, I got something in my mouth, guys. Sorry about this. I don't know what it is. Okay, so now that we are able to talk about it openly, the Hunter, the Joe thing, it looks like it's only the media that's unable to frame this. We understand now that this was influence peddling, that you can't do what he did, right? What Joe did. So the opening and being able to talk about this in, without, in the same way that we can get laughter now, in the same way that Kennedy brought laughter by saying, the mainstream media, they just peddle conspiracy theories. And that was funny, right? The same way that was funny, that was a punchline, means that it's starting to shift, right? Only the very brainwashed, only the people who don't really understand who the enemy of the people is right now. And it's not the Democrats, right? It's not the Democrats. They're victims. You got to see them as victims. You got to see Republicans who are brainwashed by the old GOP until Trump, helped free them from that exposure of brainwashing. Remember when Trump did that, right? The main time he did that was when he went into the New Hampshire debates and all the early debates, and they had paid people to be in the crowd to boo him and laugh at him and mock him. And he was able to, above and beyond the brainwashing and the mocking and the laughter, attack Jeb Bush, just destroyed him on stage in that debate, and was able to speak above and over the embarrassment, right? So It looks like now Trump did that first. He went above and beyond the embarrassment, whacked away any kind of criticism, and just destroyed Bush on that stage, right? And the people who understood what was really going on that day, that he wouldn't be cowering and wouldn't be a coward because of laughter, that he had no shame. You couldn't embarrass him into a corner and control him through embarrassment, right? These were very liberating things for people like myself who were sick of the media using embarrassment as a way to push people down and self-censor them, right? So now that it's all shifting, you even get Vivek openly talking about corruption and impeachment and these things, right? And I think at the end, he talks about not going hard at Biden, which I think is, look, Trump did start some of this, right? Let's always admit, when Trump started saying "lock her up," as funny as it was, there were consequences, right? So at a certain point, you got to stop throwing these politicians in jail and all that. So, and that's the only reason why Vivek at the end of this will say that. So I'm just teeing you up that he is going to say, "I'm not going to pursue Biden" and all that stuff. Now, probably you're going to have to pursue Biden. I don't think we get to just pick and choose. And I don't think being a politician alone allows you to not be guilty in this case. I just want to say that there's a reason why people would go out of their way to say no more Biden. It's the same reason why the Trump thing was a bad idea at the start. And, anyway, it's the way it went. So who cares? I don't want to change it. A Ukrainian state-affiliated company's multi-million-dollar bribe to the Biden family is a likely reason why President Biden is now otherwise inexplicably showering Ukraine with hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer dollars. Bribery is one of the explicit bases for impeachment specified in Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, far more specific than the more nebulous high crimes and misdemeanors clause that was used for both Trump impeachments. This time, U.S. taxpayers are footing the bill for a personal bribe, and even worse, our nation is marching closer towards major conflict with a nuclear superpower as a consequence. If the tables were turned and a Russian state-affiliated company had actually paid millions to a Trump family member, and then if Trump had sent billions of dollars to Russia to support them in war, Trump would have been impeached and removed from office instantly. We cannot and should not apply two standards of justice. Prosecuting Biden will not be the focus of my administration, but there can be no reconciliation without first getting the truth, right? So that's where we're headed, everyone. We are headed to laughing at a bribed administration that is at war, nuclear threat of war, in order to hide corruption, and a media that simply will not tell the story, cementing their reputation as the enemy of the people. And maybe the catastrophe of Hawaii is what it takes to get more people out of this hypnosis. I don't know. It's just, to me, that we don't know anything about Hawaii now after days. And more conspiracy theories are starting to bubble to the surface in Hawaii. Again, I've not been to Hawaii in my life. I've actually never been to Hawaii. So I don't even know what anyone is talking about. I don't know the climate there. I don't know anything about it, right? I have no proof whatsoever of anything going wrong in Hawaii other than what is being said, except people are saying that everything about it is weird. And for me, the point here is that you should not have default trust that you hear what's coming out of Hawaii is real. It's not, right? We don't know what happened, but you have a critical mass of Americans who aren't buying it. And the problem is, any story will do now. Weapons from space, right? Weapons from space. Now, I don't think it was a weapon from space. I think the least likely answer is a weapon from space. That's just what I think, right? Simply because, again, you can get a fire going with matches. You don't need a weapon from space. Why would you divulge your secret weapon if matches would do, right? You wouldn't do that, right? If you can just get a fire going, get it going. Like, was it a space weapon that got the fires going here in Quebec? I don't think you need a space weapon to get a huge fire going in Quebec in the summer. You can get lighter fluid, right? A little bit of lighter fluid, a match, and you're done. It's going to burn. So now, again, I don't know. I know in Barbados in the wintertime, we had a lot of fires. This winter, smoke was coming in all the time. There was because it gets really dry and we get really breezy. So that's what I know. Now, could it have burnt that fast? Yeah. If it was a little hotter, I think so. In Barbados, there was a week where all the sugar cane and a bunch of shit was burning up on a hill, and it would blow little bits of ash down to the shore, and you'd see it, right? That's the condition I have in my mind when I think about Hawaii right now. So it's believable that fire could have burned this way and it could have been natural, right? It's totally believable. But what I think we're going to find out is the government response was stupid and typical, like way dumber than what they did with COVID. Anytime you have a committee of humans trying to make a choice, you're going to get a stupid answer. And so the stupid committee of people just didn't do their job. And I think it's getting hidden. That's as far as I can tell. That's all I know, right? That the response is getting suppressed, or that the truth about the response. I don't know anything about the causes. I don't know. Right? I'm not talking about the causes. I don't know the causes. I don't care about the causes. I just don't know. Nobody knows. I'm talking about what happened after, right? The dealing with it, the response. And so there's the initial stupid response by the government, which has probably led to catastrophic lives lost. And then part two of that is the sort of the media not being able to do its job. They're not doing its job. Enemy of the people type not doing its job. And it's not the first time, right? The Trump story is enemy of the people, has been from the start, right? The whole effort to make Trump into a neo-Nazi, enemy of the people stuff, right? The whole idea of gaslighting Americans around COVID and what you can do and what you can't say, enemy of the people. The whole thing about the elections, enemy of the people, right? Can't talk about it, enemy of the people. Can't talk about Hunter and Joe and Ukraine, enemy of the people. So Trump called them enemy of the people many times, right? And I'd say to this day, if Trump had one group to chuck off an airplane from space, the media would be probably first, right? Above Joe Biden and the Democrat Party and all that. So that's where we're headed. So maybe this story of Hawaii is going to help break. Maybe this is what World War III needs, right? Maybe, I don't know. It's an awful thing to say, right? Awful thing to say. We don't know how many people are dead there. I think the number might be catastrophic. I think it might shock people. What are we at? Like 100 today? I think it's going to get like really dark. We'll see. I could be wrong about all of this. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's fog of war stuff right now, right? So we're doing our best. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Oh, I want to hear some of this food stuff. Oh, first, we got my sister just found out she was pregnant. Very exciting. I thought my family was all done. Amazing, Johnny Rico. Beautiful. Tell her about the vaccine. It's going to be good for her and the baby. Reverse seared giant chuck roast on hibachi last night. Beautiful. Highly recommend. Cheap and delicious. Yeah. I like that one. Yeah. I do. Well, I came back to Montreal yesterday, but I got my haul of Vermont beef before I left from my favorite little farm. I only cook my food with cow farts and burning kittens. Good idea, Slarty. Good idea. If you haven't tried a rack of ribs from a kitten-fired oven, sounds delicious. We love kitten-fired ovens. I've often suggested that well-done steak is just one step from charcoal. How smart do I look now? I like a well-done steak. I don't really need, a lot of my grass-fed Vermont beef is just fine, not cooked that much. I get the sear on though. I'm really hot. Truth, Kennedy, and Vivek are both right about now. Yeah. Good faith is essential. Thanks, Steve. I think you're talking about when I said, look, I'm just trying to tell you what I think is the truth the best I can. Austin, in first place in round one. Yeah, I don't know any Ron Paul of Argentina. I don't know shit about how Argentinian politics work. I do know a lot of Bitcoiners are going to Argentina to have babies, by the way. Austin, who made this comment, is the one who informed me about this. If you didn't know, this is an amazing thing. So, I had anchor babies in the United States, right? Went down to the States. My kids were born there. I was working there at the time. That makes them American, obviously, but it doesn't do shit for me. right? And I don't want to be American, so that's fine. So because you can just vote anyway, it doesn't matter, right? I voted 5 times for Biden. That's what I tell people. I voted for him 5 times, which is not true. I didn't vote for him at all. I just say 5 times to freak people out. The thing about Argentina is that if you have a baby there, you as a parent get citizenship to Argentina. Did you know that? Isn't that a good scam? I like that. Yeah, I've thought about it. Beautiful place, Argentina. All right. Oops. This is going to be funny. Allegedly head of a PD got job running the Maui PD now. I haven't double checked that yet. Las Vegas shooter guy. Yeah. That's the problem with corrupt centralized system. Incompetence. Yeah. The aliens are to blame on Hawaii. Aliens for global warming. Aliens for fiat. This week I went to a mall for the first fiat time in 3 years. It was basically empty on a Thursday evening. I have no idea how all these businesses are surviving. Yeah, and P-Man, let me tell you something right now. Montreal is the most alive and vibrant, normal North American city there is. So it's much worse in other places. P-Man, I wouldn't live in I wouldn't live in any other, I wouldn't live in Toronto right now. I wouldn't live in any city that isn't filled with Quebecois if it was in North America, simply because Quebecois are not brainwashed the same way, right? So they're not brainwashed in all these crazy ways. The brainwashing window is much smaller, and they don't consume as much of the American media, so they're not as downtrodden. I took the new train in Montreal this weekend across the Champlain Bridge. Amazing. I love it. Journalism got so yellow at this point. It's all doublespeak news articles. Time for the advent of orange journalism. I love that. Decentralized dish news. Muslim Bitcoiner. That's what we're doing here, man. That's what's up. This is a media empire from my office. It's a media empire, okay? We're going to take them all on. I think we can. I honestly, I'd take my chances and skill set over an entire media network in the long run. Right? In the long run. Now, yeah, I heard Nashville's pretty great. Yeah, I love CK says Nashville's pretty great. Yeah, Nashville's one of the only other cities because I didn't get Miami got all, there's a lot of sort of scum that showed up, right? And Austin is a fucking write-off. I've been to Texas a couple times since COVID. I haven't been to the other cities, but I want nothing to do with it. Terrible. You got to go out. I mean, just the city center is terrible. Everything else is beautiful, obviously, right? The minute you're out of the city center in Austin, it's gorgeous. So what I mean is everywhere in America outside of the city centers is pretty good, right? But it's the cities that are terrible. So I don't mean to say Texas. I love Texas, right? But downtown Austin, one of the great shitholes of America. One of the great shitholes. But I have not been to Nashville in my life, so I don't know. I gotta go to Nashville soon. I've never been. I will be there by next summer, that's for sure. I can't wait. All right, team. Cheers all. Have a great day stacking. Indeed. Somebody wanted to buy cheap real estate in Maui. That's what some people are saying. I don't know. We got one more here. If a seagull flies over the sea, what flies over the bay? A bagel? Rickster. Dad joke. Love it. We love bagels. My dream team, Obama. Oh, God. Did you hear? Oh, no. The Tim Dillon, Joe Rogan laughing about Big Mike. Oh, my God. That's why. So I don't think Michelle Obama is running. That's just my opinion. But I don't think she can deal with the Big Mike stuff that's coming. It's bad. It's really bad. It's funny. It's really funny. But the Big Mike stuff would be horrendous if I was a woman running for president. I would want to keep my millions and just not be involved in this stuff. It's not worth. How could it be worth it for her? And unless she's got to keep her husband out of jail or something like that, which I doubt. Like I just, I think Obama can play a role in reconciliation. I hope anyway. I hope he can. But he might not be able to. We'll see. He might have a broken brain, guys. We don't know. We'll see. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Aloha, enemy of the people. Nice to see you. We can see you now. I can see you, asshole. All right, that's what it's going to be about. I can see you, asshole. All right, team. Peace. Have a great day.